Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at Mafi Studio. In this video, it's going to be a long one because we are going to have the unboxing and testing out of these Holbein acrylic gouaches. Um, and we're also going to be testing them out, doing a spreadsheet of 4 tiny landscapes. So I hope you enjoy it. So first of all, I'm testing these colors. It's my first time testing both Holbein colors and both acrylic gouache colors. So for me, everything is very new, but so far, so good. I am enjoying it. They are very pigmented, way more pigmented than the ones I'm used to, which are the hihi gouaches. These ones I can tell have a lot more pigment in it, and the colors also have a lot more depthness to them. So as I'm diluting them down, I can see other undertones in them, which for me it's very exciting because I can tell I'm dealing with things that have a very high quality. And as you saw, I put a very tiny amount of paint in my Stay Wet palette. Stay Wet palette. I think that's how you say it. And even then, I am still able to do a lot with that amount of paint. Now I am seeing what kind of other tones I can get from mixing the colors together. I'm trying to mix every color together with one another. So I first took the carmine color and I mixed it with every other color. Then I took the scarlet color and mixed it with every other color, and so on and so forth. So that's why the columns got shorter, because as you go on, the colors that have been behind have been mixed with that color. So basically, I was just trying to see, because it's the first time I'm using a limited palette, even though 12 colors isn't very limited. For me, it's less than I was used to working with. And so I wanted to see what kind of tones I could get from mixing the colors together. And this has actually been very helpful so far. Every time I need a tone that I'm not sure how to make, I can refer back to the spreadsheet and I know, oh, okay, it's these colors together. This was the state of my Stay Wet palette afterwards. It was very messy. Okay, now let's move on to the painting. First, I'm starting with prepping my sheet, and I'm using these Vincent van Gogh inspired washi tapes that I got on AliExpress, I think. And I'm marking out the 4 little spaces I want for my paintings, using a very thick one for the edges and a very thin one for the middle. Okay, so this is my setup. Now let's dive into it. Once again, I'm using the Stay Wet palette for this first and second illustration. I'll also be testing palettes for these gouaches in this video, so in these 2 illustrations I will use the Stay Wet palette. On the third I'll use a different palette, and on the fourth another different palette as well. So I wanted to have a theme with these illustrations, nature and also color palette theme, so that the spreadsheet in the end looks cohesive with itself. So you will see as I go which paintings I'm doing and how they are fitting in together. But believe it or not, this first one is actually the one that differs the most from all of the other ones. I feel like the other three ones go together way better than this one, but that's actually a good thing because, it's something different to look at and that tells it apart. So, as you may have already guessed, this is going to be an underwater painting, which for me is a bit, I would say, hard to reproduce. I don't know why, it's just the fact that it's underwater and there's all of these textures that the water can um, refract on other objects and on light, that I'm just nervous about painting it and it not looking like it's underwater at all. But I think in the end it turned out pretty well. I'm trying to draw the sun rays here, and then I realized that the bottom of the sea needed to be darker as well, so then I darkened it, and now I'm blocking out my shapes. So this is going to be a scene about lotus leaves. I'm going to be drawing them from underneath. Oh, I was gonna say, acrylic gouache is very good for this marking out thing, because unlike wash, it doesn't reactivate when you paint on top of itself after it's dry. So you can keep piling on top and making layers that they don't affect each other. And as I've said in previous videos about gouache, that can be a good thing or a bad thing. I just need to learn to use it to my advantage. So in this case, using acrylic gouache for me in this painting was very good because I was able to paint on top of the layers and keep adding without being afraid that the blue from the water underneath would shine through and possibly ruin my tones. So I am now adding in the details for the lotus leaves, and I found this part so satisfying. I really didn't think that I would like to go into detail this much, but I really found it relaxing and satisfying to see the end result look so alike the reference picture. For me, the whole process of painting is so abstract. I'm just putting colors in random places where the reference tells, but then at the end, when I look at it, it all makes sense. And so, I don't know, man, just nature is so perfect. Anyways, I'm adding details here to another lotus leaf, which it doesn't make sense for me that it's so dark right there. But then, as I see in the end, um, that dark part is actually the shadow of itself, of the other side of the leaf, that's reflecting onto this side that we see. So, I don't know, it's very pretty, and I really liked to paint this tiny landscape. I actually filmed this video maybe a month ago now. I'm only editing it now. And ever since then, I also painted another underwater lotus leaf scene for, not for a video, but for an art gallery that I'll be participating here in Portugal. Um, and I guess I really liked to paint this scene because it inspired me to paint not it again, but one alike it for the art gallery, and that one, in my opinion, also turned out very pretty. Instead of green leaves, the leaves are actually like reddish, orangish, which I don't even know if that's real or if the photo is edited or maybe even AI, but I don't know, for me it's so pretty, and the painting is also very pretty. Now I'm adding some other details that I saw in the picture that it looked like debris. And at first, and also some fishies. And at first, I didn't really want to add the debris because I don't know who wants to paint debris in their pictures. But then I decided to actually paint it because in the end, I feel like it gives it realism. And you know, life is also about the non pretty things that happen. I also added some reflexes and some like impression of tiny bubbles under the sea, which I guess could also happen. I don't know, at this point I was really just having fun. And yeah. Okay, so then we move on to the next painting. I always start these paintings by wetting the paper because, as this is acrylic gouache, it tends to dry fast, and also after it dries, you can't really change it anymore. So I need to act fast by painting the backgrounds, and having the paper already wet really helps me with that, establishing the places and the colors and everything. So this painting is a waterfall in the forest. It's very whimsical, very pretty, and it was way simpler to paint than the previous one, which was very detailed. So this was a nice breath of fresh air, which is also the kind of thing that this landscape inspires, is for you to take a breath of fresh air. And I don't know, I really like painting these scenes of places that maybe don't even exist or are hard to find. It makes me feel that somehow I've been there before. Here in the background, I know it's unfocused, but I tried to paint like a foggy scene, whimsical scene. Um, this will later become like the waterfall too, but in the distance. So here I'm starting to add the details in the water to actually make it look like water, because I know it wasn't looking like water before. And I'm also starting to add details on the stones, like the moss and the um, grass and all of that fun stuff. I decided to add some leafy droopy things up here on top because I feel that also looks very pretty whimsical. Then I forgot to recenter my camera, so this is what we got. I was adding some depthness to the rocks as well, so I feel like in this stage that's kind of how I worked. I was adding lightness and then darkness and then lightness and then having them meet in between somehow. Now came the part to add some grass, which is also very satisfying, very relaxing. You don't have to think much about it. Um, and sometimes about grass and planties, the less you do, the better it looks. So we really need to keep it short with this. I tried to add like a plane up there, and then I added some birds and some twinkly things, because what's more whimsical than birds and twinkly things? Okay, so now I am going to the third painting and using another kind of palette, which is actually a plate. I was looking for a ceramic palette for the longest time, but I couldn't find one, so I decided to try a plate. And this was my go at it. I also used um, an acrylic medium for slow drying, which helps with well, the drying time of the acrylic, and I really like it. I use it every time I use acrylic gouache now. So this is another green scene, what do you know? It also has rays of sunshine coming through, just like the first painting, but this one isn't underwater. This one, for some reason, gives me like oriental vibes. I think it's because in the, you'll see later, it has like bamboo sticks. I think they are bamboo, which, I don't know, it just feels very oriental to me. Once again, I'm adding darkness to contrast with the rays of light. Now I'm starting to add some detail. And again, I feel like I did the same with this one when it comes to painting the grass, which is I first added darks and then I added lights and then I added less darks and less lights and made them kind of meet in between. I'm starting to paint the leaves now here, which for me, I feel like they turned out so good, the leaves up there. You'll see in the end, but they are backlit, so it was very interesting to paint leaves backlit because the edges are very, very, very bright, and then the middle parts would be darker and darker. In the end, I feel like it turns out so good. This part for me was also very relaxing and satisfying to paint these tiny little leaves with a tiny little paintbrush. I feel like that's the kind of thing I'm into actually, adding in the details. Something I can struggle with when painting nature scenes is to make it look natural and not have a pattern. So you'll see in this part right here, I paint everything next to each other and then I realize that things in nature aren't like that. Like they are more abstract. Sometimes they're together, sometimes they're not. One thing goes one way, another thing goes another way. And for me, that's the thing I struggle with the most when painting these nature scenes is making it abstract, making it like not a pattern. I feel like the human eye and the human brain tends to look for the pattern, tends to create the pattern, tends to go like, okay, I'm missing this right here for it to be a pattern, and that's one thing I try to not do. So now I added the bamboo sticks, I added more details in the grass. Now everything is really starting to come together. I also added some leaves from other bamboo sticks right here. Added some shine and some definition to these leaves. Now I need to fix this water because I realized that it looks way too shiny and it also needs to look shinier. I know that makes no sense, but in my mind that's how it works. Okay, so moving on. This is my ceramic palette. So as I said, I wanted to try ceramic palette and I actually got one gifted to me for my birthday by my mom. Thank you, mom. And thank you, sister, that helped my mom buy it for me. I'm testing it out with the acrylic gouache and with the slow drying medium. because I am very scared to ruin my palette and that it would never get out of there. So was very cautious to always keep it wet, but at the end it was fine. It comes off in the scene. In this painting, I actually started with the paper very wet because it's all about experimenting on one side, and on the other, I really wanted the colors to blend together, almost like a watercolor. Also, if I'm not mistaken, I feel like I may have used the acrylic medium to wet the paper on this one instead of water, but I'm not sure about that. I'm using a fan brush to blend the colors together more. And now I'm starting to add details. So I'm adding a tree in the background and I'm letting it be kind of transparent because I want that feeling that's in the distance, so it's not as opaque. Adding some leaves. Sun rays right here. Using the fan brush again to blend them. I feel like the fan brush was my best friend in this painting, and I really liked the effect that it gave. Now I feel like the sun rays needed to be a bit brighter, a bit more yellow, so I tried to tint them with this color too. And now let's draw the main subject of this scene, which is actually a stone arc. First time I ever painted stone with acrylic and with gouache. First time I ever painted stone actually. So I first started by marking out where I wanted it to be with a muted color. Then I went in with this bluish purplish tone to mark out the stones. And I was being very careful about where I would put the stones because I wanted to look very intentional and like someone actually built it. So it needed to make sense, at least in my brain. The side of the arc, I actually made the stones brighter, more yellowish, because in my mind they were reflecting the light that came from inside the arc, from those sun rays. So, because the front of the arc on our perspective is backlit, it would be in shadow, so it would have a bluish tone, but then the inside of the arc wouldn't be as much in shadow, so it gets to be lit by the sun, hence be yellow. I added the texture of the stone with a very old brush technique, and I used a darker tone of the initial color for the stone to add the texture to it. So a darker purple for the stones facing us and like brown for the inward stones. I started then adding all of the other details, all the leafy things that were hanging from the stone and glued to the stone and on the bottom of the arc as well. And I started working on the foreground. I'm gonna be honest, in this scene, I wasn't really feeling all the leaves and stuff. For some reason, they weren't feeling very natural looking for me. I don't know if it was the colors or whatever it was. I decided to add some flowers to it to tell it apart, I guess. This bottom part I kind of made up in my brain. It wasn't in the reference photo. Thought it would look better if it looked a bit less taken care of. Okay, so now it's the best part of the whole painting, which is taking off the washi tape. It is so satisfying, I know, and I decided to record it for you guys to see as well. I actually waited for a very sunny day to film this so that it would look aesthetic. Oh, those crisp lines, am I right? This was also the part where I got to see if the paintings were actually centered and if the margins were all equal, which thankfully they were. And so this is the finished product. As I told you, the first one is the most different one of them all, but I feel like the second one kind of bridged the first one with the other two ones because of the water scene as well. And I don't know, this was my first experience painting with acrylic gouache. I really liked it. I really liked the end result as well. And so my cat decided to sit on it because that's what cats do. And yeah, here we go. So here's the first one with the little fishies, the little debris, the reflections in the leaves. I feel like this is my favorite one of them all. I also really liked this one. It was probably the fastest one to paint. Really liked the birds as well, flying into the distance. Then the last one, I'm not gonna lie, this is my least favorite of them, but I also like it. And then the third one, which I also really like as well. I like how dark the bamboo sticks are. It really creates a contrast in this scene. I'm gonna put it up on my wall, my gallery wall that I'm slowly building up, and there you can see a sneak peek of the other scene I was talking about with the underwater lotus leaves. And yeah, this is the final product. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to comment on this video because whoever comments on my videos gets featured on next video. And speaking of which, these are the lovely people that commented on my last video. Thank you all for your support, and if you want to get featured too next video, you already know, you just have to comment on this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you on the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye!